You're not lazy. You're not weak. If you're feeling emotionally numb, constantly exhausted, and disconnected from everything around you, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you as a person. You might be mentally burned out and not even know it. Mental burnout doesn't always announce itself loudly. It doesn't always crash into your life with unmistakable force. Sometimes it's a whisper so quiet, it can hide in plain sight. It can nestle behind long streaks of productivity, behind the smile you show to friends and co-workers, behind the small talk and that automatic, "I'm fine," you keep repeating to everyone, even yourself. What's truly startling is that you're not alone. Up to 76% of people experience symptoms of burnout at some point, yet most never recognize the signs. So, how do you know if you're one of them? How do you know when normal tiredness tips over into something deeper? Let's break it down, starting with the small details, because it's the subtle changes, the hidden red flags, that signal when you're mentally running on empty. Maybe you wake up every morning already feeling tired, no matter how many hours you spent in bed. You're not staying up late binge-watching shows, but it doesn't seem to matter. Fatigue clings to you like a second skin. Instead of rising refreshed, you drag yourself into the day, carrying the sort of exhaustion that sleep never seems to fix. Little annoyances start to feel much bigger than they ought to be. The sound of traffic, a sudden noise, an unexpected text, they all seem to set your nerves jangling. You find yourself snapping at others, or feeling inexplicably irritated by things that never used to bother you. Underneath, there's a sense of rawness, like your emotional skin has worn thin. Maybe your to-do list grows longer each week, but despite your best intentions, you find yourself putting things off. It's not because you don't care, or because you're lazy. It's because every task, no matter how small, feels monumentally overwhelming. Even small errands start to look like steep hills you can't climb. There's a sense of detachment that starts to seep in, almost imperceptibly at first. You find yourself going through the motions, at work, at home, with friends. Laughter feels forced. Hobbies you once loved don't hold the same sparkle. Even when you're surrounded by people you care about, you might feel strangely alone, as if there's an invisible wall between you and the rest of the world. Dreaming about the future becomes harder. Maybe you used to have plans, ambitions, or a list of things you were excited to do. Now the thought of planning anything feels like a burden. You've stopped imagining new possibilities. Even thinking about next week can seem overwhelming. But perhaps the trickiest part of burnout is this. On the surface, you may still be getting things done. You show up to meetings, finish assignments, care for your family, keep up with responsibilities. Everything on the outside might look fine, or even impressive. But on the inside, you're running on fumes. Burnout isn't reserved for certain types of people, or certain kinds of work. It isn't just stress or a bad week. It isn't resolved with a single nap or a weekend off. And yet so many people, strong, responsible, hardworking people, fail to see it when it happens to them. According to clinical psychologist Dr. Emily Sanders, burnout isn't just about your workload. It's a state of emotional exhaustion. You can develop it from caretaking, from constantly putting other people's needs above your own, from ongoing stress at work or home, or even from suppressing your emotions for too long. And often, the people who are burnt out are the last to realize what's happening. Neuroscientist Dr. Raj Patel has spent years studying how burnout affects the brain. When we're burned out, there are real changes in the brain's structure and chemistry, Dr. Patel explains. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for focus, decision-making, memory, and emotional regulation, shows decreased activity. People in this state often report problems concentrating, remembering things, or managing their feelings. Crucially, instead of recognizing this as a biological reaction to chronic stress, many people blame themselves. They see it as a personal failure rather than a neurological response. It's a myth to think that pushing harder guarantees recovery. In fact, this is what most people get wrong. They try to outwork burnout, believing the only solution is to double down on effort, even when every part of their body and mind is crying out for rest. The result? Burnout only deepens, becoming harder to reverse. So, if working harder isn't the answer, what actually is? What steps can help you recover from burnout and reset your brain, starting today? The first step is awareness, recognizing that what you're experiencing isn't a sign of weakness, but a natural human response to prolonged stress and overextension. You reach burnout not because you're not strong enough, but often because you've been far too strong for far too long, without allowing yourself to rest. The truth is, burnout can happen to anyone. Students studying long hours, parents juggling work and family, frontline workers, creatives, managers, entrepreneurs. Anyone who pours themselves into their responsibilities without building in time for recovery can slip into this state. Recovery begins with small, intentional changes. Start by paying attention to your needs, the ones you've been putting aside. Give yourself permission to rest, even if just for a few minutes each day. Reconnect with things, people, and activities that bring you genuine joy. Sometimes it's as simple as spending time in nature, listening to your favorite music, calling a friend, or just sitting quietly with your feelings. Rediscovering boundaries is crucial too. Learn to say no when you need to. Protect your downtime the way you would protect a valuable work meeting. Your rest matters, not just for your productivity, but for your mental and emotional health. Another key step: become curious, not judgmental about your feelings. If you find yourself exhausted, detached, or irritable, try asking what might be happening beneath the surface. Instead of berating yourself for struggling, use it as a signal that your body and mind need care. Seek support if you need it, whether it's talking to a trusted friend, a counselor, or a mental health professional. Sometimes, just hearing that what you're feeling is valid and normal can bring enormous relief. Recovering from burnout isn't about quitting your job, abandoning your responsibilities, or uprooting your life overnight. It's about gradually rebuilding resilience, strengthening your inner resources, and creating space for your own well-being, step by step. Remember, mental burnout doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've been carrying too much for too long without a sufficient break. It's not a life sentence, and you're far from alone. The most important thing you can do is to recognize the early signs and take them seriously. Your mind, your body, and your future self will thank you. In the next part of this journey, you'll learn science-backed strategies for resetting your nervous system, strengthening your mental energy, and rebuilding your resilience, without having to abandon your job, your responsibilities, or your dreams. You deserve more than survival mode. You deserve rest, joy, and a mind that feels alive. The journey back begins with awareness. From there, every intentional act of self-care becomes a step forward, a sign that you're honoring your worth as a human being. Because you are not alone in this, and it's more than okay to pause. In fact, sometimes, learning to rest is the most courageous thing you can do. Make sure to continue this journey and explore the tools that can help you heal. There's a path through burnout, and it starts with giving yourself the same compassion you so readily offer to others. Even the strongest need time to heal. Your mind deserves it. You're not a machine. You were not designed to run endlessly without rest, joy, and connection. When you feel numb, distant, or exhausted, when your spark has faded and you can barely remember the last time you truly felt excited, know that you're not failing at life. You're responding, the only way your mind knows how, to relentless, unyielding pressure. It's time to break the silence, to stop hiding your pain behind strength, to stop equating relentless output with value. You are worthy of pause. You are worthy of care. As you move into the next part of this series, remember, no matter how burned out you might feel right now, recovery is possible. Life can be more than a to-do list or an endless stream of obligations. It can be meaningful, energized, and joyful again. You deserve to feel fully alive, not just functional. Don't wait for things to get worse. Listen to the whispers your mind is sending you. And give yourself grace, because your best tomorrow starts with kindness to yourself today.